again.
So it's going to be a little two-parter. Hello again.
So basically, I was just saying, well, you can catch it on Instagram. But basically, it was really good at all the stuff he was doing, and people were asking him to come and take over. All the Protestant Huguenots needed protecting. Little James had come into the picture, and so William had political, religious, and personal motivations for him and his wife in order to come and try and push for an invasion. I think also at this point he was now, maybe he'd held back a little bit because he was unsure about how much support he may have had, but now, like, people were basically pretty much begging him in droves to come along and do this. And by spring 1688, people were literally demanding for him to do this. Exiles, refugees, and high-ranking members of the British political, a bit of everyone coming in.
As long as you're a Protestant.
Well, yeah, well, there is a notable exception coming up to that. Yes.
Exciting.
Yes, I know. High tension drama. So little James is born. Not many people care. Now, normally when you get an heir to the throne like that, everyone's huzzah! Not really. Not feeling the love for it. And then of course we have this release. So there were these people called the Immortal Seven. Really shit superheroes. They were a group of
promising though. The naming is promising.
They had high hopes for themselves.
I sense disappointment on your horizon then, Kat, because they were 7 Anglican bishops led by the AB of C, and
super fun.
And they were basically arrested and then released. And this was seen as an absolute propaganda disaster for James. And they had been questioning his dispensing powers. He tried to cut them down, and it just didn't work. So they were released. And then 7 high-ranking Protestant dissidents just said, right, James is going to cause a civil war. You have to step in at this point. And it really was the mood of the nation. It's not just all the posh dudes at the top going, we're going to throw our weight around because we're minted. It was like everyone's like, no, we're straight up done with this shit now. Like, we're over it. So in summer 1688, Philippa talked about, he had lots of people, he had boats, he had weapons, he had horses, you name it, he had it. He had it. I had 49 battleships, not me personally, 49 battleships, 250 transport vessels, 10,000 sailors, and Dutch land forces supported from the English and Scottish exiles they left for England, and the envoys in Germany and the States. He had them in the States, in the German states. He spoke to them and he arranged for them to be allied there against the French. So if the French tried to come into the Netherlands, because he wasn't there, his German allies would stand against the French. So he really had this shit down. This military business. He just had the respect of people. He organized them. He put everything in place. He was top notch. Well done. So William and Mary, that we talked about what great propaganda strategist William was. They had this down by now, the pair of them as a couple. They had control over all sorts of publications. They had official propaganda. They had unofficial propaganda. They had a bit of everything going on. They were really controlling this situation across Britain and into Europe. And it was another part of fighting the war. So really, again, a lot of this battle, again, is very little in terms of actual battle. It's all about the propaganda and the coming together to work things out and the working out with your best sides. And James was just a weak man at the end of the day in terms of this situation. So William had a declaration of the reasons inducting him to appear in the arms of the United Kingdom of England. And what he did was they blamed the king's advisors, not the king, which is probably a very wise thing to do in terms of possible acts of treason later, although I think if James had got him, he would have been absolutely screwed. But one thing it did do, though, was it did question the legitimacy of the little baby James. So they did push it that far. Now, James's counsellors initially sort of said, don't worry about that. It'll be fine. By the time he went, I should probably worry about that. It was too late. So there was a fleet that could be seen basically from the Thames. It was nearly there by the time James went yard. I probably should have thought about that. So over the sound of of doors being shut and horses bolting, William does it. he's gone for it. He's in. On the 26th of October, he left the United Provinces and said to his deputies, "What God intends for me, I do not know. But if I should fall, have a care for my beloved wife who loves your country as her own." They were all crying. She was crying. Oh. He was crying. Oh. They left. He breaks down. He's
a crier, isn't he? He is a crier.
It was all a bit sad. Everyone was really quite sad, apparently. Anyway, Louis XIV is still allied with England. This is the bit you don't expect. Everyone hates Louis XIV so much that even though William, as a Protestant, is going across because this is against the Catholics, everyone hates Louis so much that the Pope supports William.
He does, yes.
He does, yeah.
Which is a bit wild when you think about it.
Yeah, Pope Innocent IX. Pope Innocent IX.
Kenny, thank you for sending me my face doing that. I appreciate you. I'm not going to unsee that. Oh, I'm going to put it that way.
I feel like I've just okay.
I'll send it to you later.
Anyway, so on the 30th of October, the fleet was driven back by gales. William goes back. He spends a little bit more time with Mary. There's more crying. And on the 9th of November, there's complicated moving about in the water shit that I'm not going to go into, because unless you're into military history, it's long-winded and not. It can be a bit dry. Well, not the water, obviously. The 9th of November, the wind changed. What's known as the Protestant wind, and the 600 ship flotilla went across. And so the part of the revolution that was glorious, so it was just a revolution, was tagged on by the Whigs later, the word glorious propaganda, because they said there was no blood spill. There were little skirmishes. I don't like your king.
He clearly brought a big enough army with him just in case.
In case. Well, it's wise to sort of think these things through. But there was no full-scale civil war, as people could have anticipated. They arrived on the 5th of November at Torbay, went for a fireworks party. Then they marched northeast to Exeter, gathering support. Loads of people, all the higher up. They didn't really, just in case you were thinking, supporting James. A lot of them were just deserting him left, right and centre. They could see the writing was on the wall. Now, James tried to negotiate with William. Didn't work. So he ran off to Louis XIV and became his bitch over in France. He arrived in London on the 18th of December. This is one thing you might hear about William and Mary, that he was considered very dour and sour-faced and wasn't necessarily very popular with the English people. So Mary kind of went overboard trying to make up for that. So she was quite beloved, and he was seen as quite sort of sour and grumpy. But so William obviously wasn't that king. I want king really to touch on this, but he refused. He refused to be a regent, and Mary refused to be queen without him by her side. Hence, we have the joint coronation on February the 8th, 1687. But it was performed with, it was kind of like, because it was at Westminster Abbey, so it was a bit Catholic-y.
But the Archbishop of Canterbury wouldn't do it, would he? It was the Bishop of London.
So, well, you couldn't really have the AD do it at that point.
I mean, let's be clear. The Anglican Church of England today is a Catholic church. It's not Lutheran. It's not Calvinist. It's bells and spells. It's Catholicism without the purgatory and the confession. It's which is
a shame, because those are the fun bits.
Well, that's why they kept them, because Elizabeth I recognised you needed ceremony, you needed pomp, you needed music, you needed that. There's a reason why they did it, why it works.
Yeah.
And it's all the better for it. Yeah.
So there we go.
Right. Is it time for that's
William's career? And as you said, there was so it's time. It is.
Right. Before we get into his blessed memory, let's get into our blessed memories.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not. Do I have to put the veil on my face?
Do it. Yeah. Yes.
God, it's stuck on my eyelashes.
You do have to. You do have to put it on your face. Right. Catherine,
I can't.
You've got the
see to read it now.
You'll be all right. You'll be all right. Welcome. Let's channel our widows. The widows of Lancaster. Here to answer your past problems, postbag.
I don't like it. It smells. Hang on. Right, I'm sorry.
I'm
not gonna lie. Might have to breathe this
like
in a minute.
Right, okay. I'll put it back in a minute. All right.
Read us your problems.
Dear History After Dark.
Hello.
So I happen to live in a country that is horribly desolated in religious wars. It happens. I used to have a lot of Protestant servants, and there's been like 8 religious civil wars or something. I stopped counting because it seems like I can't go to the bathroom without a Protestant or a Catholic getting murdered in the street. I don't know, the country's been going down the toilet since old King What's-His-Face got hit in the face with a wooden broomstick and cried for his lover. I'm sure his baby mama was pissed, but she's queen now.
Fair.
Hell, I was trying to go yonder to the oldie grocery store, and I must have ended up somewhere completely different, because the next thing I know, I was in some posh place where I think a bloke by the name of Duke Gee something got shot.
Oh.
Worst case is I've got my groceries.
Yeah.
Anyways, my servants are all dead. What should I do? Signs, the Lord Tie-Uppy of Winnebago. Cheers.
Yes.
I'm finding the Tesco app incredibly useful. My groceries.
Is that your advice for the massacre at Paris? A Tesco app.
Just
Get the
smartphone,
Tesco app. Little Tesco app.
Then you can put in a slot where it's suitable. So if things are still a bit ropey outside, just put it off for a day or
So what you were saying is, what was that whole
Zombie apocalypse.
that really bad thing that happened in Paris?
Massacre at Paris.
Yeah, what was it called?
The Massacre at Paris.
Yeah, but it had a name, didn't it?
Saint Bartholomew's Day
Bartholomew's
Massacre.
Day
What you're saying, Philippa, is if only they'd had Tesco click and collect.
I'm just talking about the inconvenience of the aftermath. I mean,
look,
not
there'd be a lot less
on my picks.
I think she's right. If there were Tesco app, there'd be a lot less defenestration. Fact. Right, but my Lord of Winnebago, my advice for you is Tesco app notwithstanding, it's a good piece of kit.
Yeah.
I would say get in your Winnebago and get the fuck out of there. Get the fuck out.
GTFO in your Winnebago. Go.
It is time.
That's wise advice.
It is time for you to leave. Come back. Come to England. And come and find a man called Cecil. And Walsingham, and say that you have information, and that you would like, and tell him you're a code breaker.
Oh, hang on.
Tell him you're a code breaker.
If he's a bit posh, if you're a bit posh, mate, Waitrose.
Ocado, baby.
Ocado,
Ocado, that
nice.
But might not
just come over to England and tell Cecil and Elizabeth that you're a code breaker.
They
Chef's
would.
kiss delightful.
They will give you servants and food,
groceries,
and I think that's
and possibly whatever money they can get when they execute Mary Queen of Scots. So
everyone's a winner.
There's that.
Apart from Mary Queen of Scots.
Yes.
And if all else fails, at least you haven't got smallpox.
No.
Yeah,
that's true.
Talking of smallpox, I did see a lot of people ask the question.
We done.
Did William get smallpox?
He did earlier on in life.
He did.
Sorry, did you know this, or were you asking me? Because
no, I did know it.
Yeah,
you go ahead.
So this is also why he could attend to his wife while she was dying and irritate her, because he was. I mean, I think he was like, yeah. But anyway, he already had immunity, and he knew he had immunity. So yeah.
It had made him very ill. Like it is one of the things that's credited with his quite sort of small asthmatic-y chest is that he survived smallpox but not unscathed. Like he was quite
interesting. That
scarred.
happened with Anne's husband George as well. It was his lungs that it got.
Interesting.
Yeah. So William's brother-in-law.
It's almost like there's a reason why they might not be the fittest, strongest.
I mean, the inbreeding probably doesn't help. But in terms of as we are swiftly approaching past our time, shall I just do a whistle stop? Now, here's the deal, friends. William gets a lot of credit, in heavy inverted commas, for a lot of shit that has happened on these islands. When we talk about the Glorious Revolution as a bloodless revolution, there is a heavy fucking caveat because it's bloodless in England. There is a metric fuck ton of blood spilt on other parts of these islands, but also globally. William does do things that are quite outstanding for good and for evil. And so I'm just going to do a rundown. If I was to go into depth with all of this stuff, we would be here for 65 episodes, and this is a oneer. We're not doing a 65er. Interestingly, things I think that are interesting, and I'm not attaching a moral value to these things. I'm using the word interesting, neither good nor bad. He manages to form this grand alliance, which I think is interesting. And in many ways, I'm saying this is part of the legacy, which is what I'm covering, because it puts England in a position of diplomatic usefulness. William has been described as a monomaniac, and I think that's a very fair assessment. And his monomania is not a matter of religion. That's what he gets credited with. His monomania is Louis and France. He is obsessed with the fact that Louis needs to be curtailed, controlled, and that he needs to not become this power. And part of that is because he sees Louis as a religious zealot who is hell-bent on doing nefarious, zealoty, culty shit. So he is like, I'm not up for it. He does get this grand alliance. He's part of this grand alliance that includes Scotland, Austria, Spain, Savoy, and German states. So this is a kind of cross-party, multi-religious discipline thing that's going on, which I think is quite interesting. William's challenges come from the fact that, and in terms of his legacy and in legacy shaping, it comes from the fact that he is obsessed with France. And so he puts men and troops and money into trying to curtail Louis. This does leave him vulnerable politically. He is dealing with a Whig-Tory divide in Parliament. They are arguing with each other. William is of the belief, much like his sister-in-law Anne, why shouldn't he be able to just pick the best Whig to be the Chancellor, the best Tory to be whatever else? Like, if there are people with skill from each party, he should pick and choose as he sees fit. They do not like that. And so it's problematic. He does have some more natural suspicions of one party rather than the other. He is fearful of a growing republicanism. He's constantly obsessed with there being republicanism. And while he does do away with lots of the, I suppose it's not really the pomp. He likes the ceremony. He likes the way in which monarchy is in some way rarefied. It's not a republic. But what he takes away is the mystery, the spirituality, this kind of touching for the king's evil. He doesn't in any way democratize monarchy. He doesn't make them just like us. But it goes from being, what we start to see with William is the first notion of king or queen as servant of the people, not a first among equals, not divine right, not some kind of special fucking pox healing unicorn of magic. This is
clearly because he didn't.
Because he couldn't. But that is in no way to say that he doesn't think that monarchy is special and should not be respected. What he doesn't think is that it's magical. He thinks that there is a service to be done. I'm just going to skip through I'm going to skip through my notes because we have to cover some stuff quickly. The big thing that I think he leaves us with is the act of settlement, the thing that in essence says this is who the next monarch's going to be. It becomes very clear before he dies. It becomes very clear that his sister-in-law is not going to have children, principally because her last surviving child dies before she becomes queen. He has this incredible back and forth arguments with his sister-in-law, with Anne, and I think a lot of the reason why his legacy is so devalued and so ignored is because Anne comes after him, and then we get the Georges. But he does kind of set things up to be in the position where that's going to happen. And we see that as being a religious thing. Of course, part of it is that it prevents a Roman Catholic from sitting on the English throne. It prevents somebody from marrying a Roman Catholic, from having an heir that is Roman Catholic. And this paints William as being some kind of intolerant. William, in terms of religion, is really tolerant. He is trying to push toleration constantly. And not just in Catholic, Roman Catholic and Protestant disciplines, in terms of all of the various faiths. He comes to an Anglican country coming from a much more Presbyterian system. The argument of whether he's going to rule in Scotland, that's not a given. England and Scotland are not one thing. That won't happen until the reign of, they won't become a unified nation. The crowns have been unified, but England and Scotland are not a country. They are nowhere near being a country. And the decision as to whether he will be the King of Scots is up for debate, what the faith of Scotland will be. And so he has to compete with this notion of, if he leans too far to Roman Catholics, well, they may just have kept James. He's got to see off a Jacobite threat. He's got to deal with a parliament in all of the countries that he is looking to govern that is religiously zealots. They are very kind of heavy in terms of what it means to be loyal to the crown, in a way that William just doesn't really give a shit about. All he wants to do is kick Louis in the face. And in fact, while Mary is alive, she's doing the faith stuff. She's the one who's kind of overseeing the religion stuff. And after she dies, he just essentially rubber stamps what his priests tell him to rubber stamp, because I don't think he cares, in as much as he is a person of faith. And one of the reasons why it's said that he sets aside his mistress after his wife's death is because he's told by a priest that her early death in this horrible way was judgment from him having a mistress. So he's like, oh shit, no more mistress for me.
Well, his wife's already dead, so it's done.
Yeah, but his guilt is like, oh no, I killed her. I can't have a mistress anymore. The
good old church.
Yeah, the kind of is eventually the Whigs will alienate him. So I think he's more naturally Tory leaning, and eventually the Whigs alienate him fully. He doesn't trust them. He thinks they are looking to dethrone him,
kick him out, whatever
problems for them, kick him off. Let me just hop. I'm going to hop forward. So eventually, 1700, he is doing these political deals. He gets Lawrence Hyde and Sidney Godolphin to get major posts in the administration. He dissolves the parliament in order to try and get an increase of supporters for this new ministry. In 1701, this is where this deal comes to fruition. Harley becomes the chair in February. He then pushes through the Act of Settlement. So the reason the Act of Settlement can happen is because he has done deals and he has made it so that he can rig a parliament in a way that this can be smooth. There are constant kind of reshuffles. What it seems to be is that because the king is prioritizing a battle against Louis, he will accept changes in England because he is this kind of monomaniac. He will work with anybody in government or faith if it means that they will support financially and politically his war, his desire to control France and control Louis. When it comes to dealing with his politicians, with his members of parliament, what he doesn't have, which is probably what saves him, is he doesn't seem to take things personally. Of course, the big thing is that Charles I has taken things incredibly personally, and we know how that all turned out. Skipping forward.
That's a very good trait to have as
it is. In that
position. I admire that.
I like it a lot.
An issue then becomes, of course, because we... the problem is, in certain places, William has a connection. William has a connection to London. He can be seen. What he doesn't have is the same connection in Scotland or in Ireland. So appearing to not give a fuck about faith and appearing to be tolerant is a problem. It's a problem for the English, but at least they can see him. Whereas I think in Scotland and in Ireland, it really creates instability. It's so bad that there is a suggestion that William should go up to Scotland. This is 1689 to 90. So we're early on. That William should go to Scotland to try and flatter the people who are involved in these factions. This, however, doesn't ever happen. The other thing, of course, is that he is trying to build an England that can compete in the world they're facing. And this is a world of trading companies. Mm. Scotland has its own trading company. And to try and pacify the people who are funding his war against Louis, he essentially fucks over this Scottish trading company. They are called the Company of Scotland. It had been founded in 1695 to let Scots trade overseas. It was trying to expand commercially into Central America, and William has to oppose it. I don't think he really gives a shit, but because of the people that are paying for the things he wants, he's being puppeteered. And so that essentially means that he is sacrificing his Scottish subjects and their capacity to make a buck in order to deal with Louis. Then we've got the fact that Ireland becomes a bit of a launching pad for Jacobite rebellions. So William's commanders are trying to deal with Jacobite resistance in Ireland. This is in 1691. And it's very clear that to avoid this being a drawn-out, long series of running battles, there have to be terms given to the rebels. They have to find a way to come to some kind of terms. Otherwise, there's just going to be even more bloodshed. So he basically says that the Jacobites who choose to not leave for France can keep their estates and exercise the same faith-based freedom they'd had under Charles II. Irish Protestants are like, I'm sorry, what the fuck? So the Irish Protestants in the Parliament, they are outraged. And this Limerick treaty, they think is sacrificing their security because it's allowing this Catholic threat to grow as far as they're concerned. And it's allowing them to worship essentially unrestrained. This makes them feel like the king has more concern with fighting wars on the continent than dealing with what they see themselves as being his loyal Irish subjects. His failure to, I think, properly assess the magnitude of what was really going on in Edinburgh and Dublin, his failure to, and I think he just wasn't capable of being a hearts and minds kind of leader. And his inability to have that charisma to get people to put their faith in him meant that matters of faith became an enormous deal. And I think almost without a shadow of a doubt, in both of those countries, to varying degrees, matters of faith are still an incredibly important, dangerous, and violent thing. If you go to Belfast today, you will see, in the Protestant part of town, you will see a very flattering painting of William of Orange looking like fucking Hercules on white sorrel. White sorrel's rearing up like he is a hero. To this day, orange marches cause unrest. They cause disagreement and argument. So this is still having a knock-on effect, and I think we have to, in many ways, there's stuff that's gone on. The relationship between England and Ireland and England and Scotland has very, very long roots. But what William does or fails to do cements it, in my opinion. Do I think he had any intention of that being the case? No, I don't. And I think that most of what we see play out and the mythologizing of him happens in many ways after his death. Mm. William is a man of faith, but he is not a person who thinks that faith should be placed on somebody by persecution. Mm. He wants there to be, in his armies, he employs all denominations, wide range of denominations. He employs both Catholics and Jewish people in his administration. He even, when he goes to be crowned in Scotland, he objects to a part of the coronation oath of Scotland that would ask him to root out heresy. It has to be pointed out that this is just words. It's meaningless words. So he is a person who has his principle, and that principle is don't force people into faith. I'm going to hop to his memory. In terms of faith, there is a quotation that I want to read, that despite the faith of the United Provinces which he was raised in, he became a pious Anglican in England, accepted a rigid Presbyterian settlement in Scotland, put his name to a penal code of intolerant legislation in his westernmost realm in Ireland. So to pacify the Protestants, he essentially has to capitulate and goes, fuck it. Yeah, it's basically illegal to be Catholic. Let's deal with that. Because he just wants to deal with Louis. I do think that the revolution, the Glorious Revolution, as it's so called, it does mark a sea change in what monarchy looks like. And that, I think, in that flip, that is what still happens in the United Kingdom today, particularly, I think, in this notion of service. That is hard and fast, but also in the separateness. What William pioneers by not touching for the king's evil is a figurehead model, is a person to whom deference and reverence should be, but also a person who serves. And I think that's very similar to the kind of monarchy that we have today in many ways. So we remove this notion of divinity. However, that doesn't mean that he doesn't like luxury, because we've talked about his changes at Hampton Court Palace. This was going to be, if he'd had his way, it could have been one of the finest palaces built on the European style. That the lavish entertainment at Whitehall, these sorts of things, we talk about these changes, but actually there is a kind of quite pared back model. So he could leverage that money, and he could have taken the whole of Hampton Court Palace down and rebuilt Versailles, basically. And I'm sure in many ways he would have loved to have his own Versailles, because it would have been way to stick one to Louis. But he doesn't. He and Mary they are frugal in the respect that they change the bits they're going to live in. And Hampton Court makes sense for him because of his lungs. He likes what he likes, but there is not a extraordinary overspending. However, in what he does achieve at Hampton Court Palace, and the things that we see, the way in which we have the work of Christopher Wren in Hampton Court Palace, but he also attracts artists and musicians and Grinling Gibbons. I'm not sure how many people know about Grinling Gibbons, but if you go to Hampton Court Palace and you see the carved wood, the like fruit that lives all in the building, that's Gibbons, and it's beautiful and it's Baroque, and it's, in that respect, William and Mary are the mother and father of a new style of British design. And he also favors the musician Henry Purcell, and I think in that respect there is this courtly identity that often gets forgotten, and William is drawing these people. Why then do we remember William so poorly, or not really at all? It's somebody pointed out that there are more pubs named after William IV, who arguably didn't do fuck all, except for he lived long enough for Victoria to be 18. Like, that's his
claim to fame,
legacy, right? Than William of Orange. Why do historians ignore him, or discredit him, or paint him out to be this kind of prissy, boring, we're all a bit glad that he fell over the molehill, the little gentleman in black velvet, ha ha ha? Why do we all sort of talk about this notion that it's very sad that the Queen died first? I think it was unexpected that the Queen died first. She was in very robust health, but smallpox is a minx.
Yeah.
So
he's a minx. Oh, the wily minx.
Why is it when people sort of say, talk about William of Orange, everyone's like, well, who's that? What's going on? It has been suggested that principally the issue is he's foreign. That throughout more recent, the sort of intervening 300 or so years, people have wanted their heroes to be British. That as he is a Prince of Holland, that is where his first loyalty lay. And that certainly is something that's helped along by his sister-in-law, who's like, well, I'm actually British. So hello. I think by the time he dies as well, everything that he has achieved that people might be happy about is replaced by this resentment over the fact that he's got this ongoing war, and war is expensive. So there's going to be a tax burden. There's also going to be anxieties about the fact that he's taking and drawing people to go and fight for him. There's going to be a cost to that, a human cost of life. And people tend not to love it when their sons are killed fighting somebody else's war.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of the times that we could have celebrated him, the Battle of the Boyne and the celebration of the Battle of the Boyne that could have been the great victory, etc., that is now an Orange Day march. So we've obscured the name. And equally, you talked about his landing on the 5th of November. That was a kind of commemoration. And in fact, William liked this notion. He liked the idea of there being a commemoration that tied to the Gunpowder Plot, because that was a Catholic plot that sought to bring down the monarchy, the Stuart monarchy. So I think he thought, well, hang on, I will link my celebration of coming over here to the 5th of November, and thusly it will be indelibly connected. Well, actually, no, because it turns out that what we really enjoy is mocking up images of our politicians and also, if you go to Lewis, the Pope, and burning them in effigy. We like that apparently a lot more than we like remembering that this thing that's happened. And we also like boom boom fireworks. So equally, he just isn't dashing. He's not a merry monarch. He's not a great big shagger like Charles II. He's not got 6 wives like Henry VIII. He's not.
Doesn't look like Max Irons.
It doesn't look like Max Irons.
No. And
while there are a group of historians who love battle history, in terms of bodice ripper novels, it ain't the stuff. It ain't the. There's not going to be a Tudors series equivalent for the Glorious Revolution. It ain't. We're not going to be looking at the court for that. I think on top of that is that he becomes quite suspicious, and it really hampers how he deals with his parliament. He is so sure that that there are people in that parliament that want to bring about a republic. He cannot deal with it. So there are facts of William's character, and there are facts of the choices that he makes as a stadtholder and then as a king, that means that he just hasn't become somebody that we go, yes, this is somebody that we hold up either for close examination or for high praise. He's not a Richard I for better or for worse. And I think that is quite interesting. And there's many reasons for that, but those are just a few of them. And I could have said more, and I've rushed through that, but we are running past.
This is a marathon today. Sorry, everybody. Well done for your stamina.
Yes. Intrepid Freddy, I saw mannequins with his and Anne's clothes on them. He was tiny. Yes. And I think, I don't know if I don't know who owns the clothes. His little jacket. He's just got this incredibly tiny chest.
I think that's either at Hampton Court Palace or Kensington. It was in the no, it wasn't. It's on either of those. It's in one of the collections at Historic Royal Palaces, isn't it? but not out, unfortunately.
Yeah, but it's it's like it's almost childlike.
Giddy.
He's so small.
Yeah.
So that is
a bit of William of Orange. Bits of William of Orange.
Bits of William of Orange
with the peel left on.
Yeah, I was gonna say not the bits.
Weirdly, because we're gonna do the roundup.
We've got one more. Yeah, we've got
one more. So 2 weeks from now. 2 weeks from now, we're going to do a roundup. And where I'm sitting now is that I think that the stuff that happens because of him is fully fucked up. But I don't, apart from his like weird monomania, and that's a great word for it, over Louis, like he's got a war boner just for Louis.
But everyone hated Louis, so.
But William is like, I don't fuck everything else. I am tumesced at the thought of backing Louis into a corner. It's everyone hates Louis. There's a problem with Louis, but William hates Louis the mostest. William hates Louis. William hates Louis enough that if he could, he would have had a tattoo being like, "I hate Louis," like "fuck you, Louis." That's if he could have made merch. It'd been like Louis, 2 fingers up. That's it's a bit weird. But on top of that, I don't think we will have to really assess in terms of culpability. Like, did he know that it was going to be centuries of essentially religious strife and conflict and republicanism versus monarchy? Like, it did this, could he possibly have known it? And if he had, would he have changed things?
As of course, Louis is a problem.
He's a fucking problem.
He's Timmy's dad.
Yeah,
Louis is Timmy's dad.
Louis is Timmy's dad.
But right. Louis is Timmy's weekend dad. Louis is the fucking Disney dad that turns up with like candy and a BB gun. That's who Louis is.
And then Timmy comes back and is even more of a little shit than when he went. Anyway, no personal experience there at all. Anyway,
that was my whistle stop tour through the legacy bits.
So right, Philippa, what's that? People have been talking about this in the comments. They're all itching to know. Philippa, what's happening
if we're sticking with our plan, then we are covering the Pankhursts next week.
Scandalo.
We're going to do that.
No, we did. We are going to do that.
Well,
we're doing the Pankhurst, babe.
Yeah, but we were talking about time frames and people related to those people still being quite.
Oh yeah, we did talk about that.
We'll get back to you. We'll let you know.
We'll let you know.
We were going to do the Pankhurst. It might be the Pankhurst.
Someone's doing one of the Percys. I don't know about. Possibly not.
Well, we did actually. Did we talk about the Percys?
Did we? I'm not sure I want to do one of the Percys.
Oh my god, I'm tired now. Oh hello.
People Plantagenet. There's loads of them. Anyway, we'll think of something. We'll think of something and we'll let you know. We'll think of something and we'll let you know. Philippa, please tell us about all the things you normally tell us about.
Oh, okay. Right. So thank you, everyone who has supported us tonight with super chats.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's been very, very generous, and it's been it's very welcome. It is going towards the Winnebago Fund.
Thank you a bit less.
Yeah. So you can support us either when we're live, or you can go along to our Buy Me a Coffee at buymeacoffee.com/had podcast. Where you can become a close friend on our Instagram. You can also do a little 1 to 3 with us, a private Zoom call line. So Andrea will be in touch to sort out an exact date and time for you to pick our brains. Oh God, and spend an hour with.
We'll have a nap first. We'll have a nap.
Yeah, we
first,
will.
babe.
We will sleep between
We'll
now
have a
and then,
nap
promise,
and a
so that we
coffee.
can,
Promise.
definitely. I'm going to start drinking coffee a bit later in the day. I think it will help me.
I need
You
to
can-
develop an addiction to some form of stimulant at this stage.
Yeah, you do.
Cool. Okay.
And
I
you
can
can also
do.
sign up to our Substack. It's free. It is it's History After Dark Hub, as in it's going to be our hub at substack.com. So that's History After Dark Hub at substack.com.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay.
Send us past problems postback.
Yes,
do
to
that.
History
Let me
After
see.
Dark 2021 at gmail.com. History After Dark 2021 at gmail.com. Send us all your marvelous issues, past
Yes.
problems postback.
Like on whatever platform you're watching, follow or subscribe wherever you're watching. Click all of the buttons.
Do all the
Comment,
emojis.
push it to the
everything.
algorithm. Share.
And check out the
Do all of that
merch that
stuff.
we've now.
Merch.
So you can get these t-shirts. You can get Timmy is a Problem mugs and AirPod
And
cases.
if you do get merch,
Yeah.
please take a photo of yourself with the merch.
Oh yes.
Oh, like
that'd be
Amy
great.
did. Yes.
Like
Amy
yes,
took
have
us
London.
the tower, yeah.
With our
She did.
t-shirt on. Loved
Yeah.
it.
Which is
Thank
fabulous.
you.
And
That
of
was
course, we
very,
do
very
have
cool.
the No Feet for Free on the internet sliders.
Which I'm going to be
available and free.
purchasing for my summer hollybobs. If you think I'm not going to be on the beach with a no
I
feet for
can't
free,
wait.
just remind myself.
So the thing is, you can now not take a photo of your feet in your sliders and post it, because that would be feet for free on the internet.
Just put socks on. You can get the merch
Points.
if you go to our link tree. There is a link to the merch.
There's a link on YouTube as well, and in our bio. Because I can't remember how you get there right now.
But it's just clicky link.
Yeah,
Clicky link.
the links.
Right, that's it. So as Kat said, please, if you are following us on Instagram, please do come down and follow us as well on the YouTube's History After Dark, where you can like, subscribe, share, hit the bell button, tell everyone you know, tell everyone you don't know, tell everyone. They're going to love it. Yeah. If you're only following us on YouTube, please go to Instagram. It's history.after.dark, where you can, as Philippa mentioned, become a close friend, where you get bits of random shit from our brains, and you can join that by going to more random shit, and you can
not
join
actual
that by
feces though, not actual just
no. Just
it's not a school sample.
You can get that via buymeacoffee.com/. I don't even know. It's on the link tree.
Yeah.
What I said before.
What we said, yeah. So thank you very much, everybody, for supporting us on both platforms, and definitely for all the donations. We cannot tell you how much we appreciate your support in all capacities. You really do make us all smile, and you force us to learn about things as well, which is good.
Yes.
Good times.
Where is the merch link on the YouTube, P?
Well, actually, all the merch should... Oh, no, actually, it won't be there yet. Sorry, it should be there soon, where you can actually see the merch.
It'll be in the description box.
But you can, if you go to our actual profile, I think it's there. Or just hop over to our Instagram and find it there.
It'll go in the description box of this one when there is one.
That. Yeah.
Cool. I'm going to count us out, ladies.
Fabulous.
I'm going to call it a 3, a 2, a 1. Thanks,
bye.
Bye.